This is a battery. A basic one, pun intended, but energy doesn't only come in the form of electricity. This clear, almost boring liquid might not look like much, but it stores energy too, just in a very different way. Instead of releasing electrons, it releases heat. All I have to do is drop this tiny seed crystal into the liquid, and watch as it almost instantly turns into a solid. And that phase change is an exothermic reaction, meaning energy is released in the form of heat. And unlike other batteries, this reaction is fully reversible, meaning we don't have a limited cycle life. And there's no self-discharge, meaning we can store the energy indefinitely without it dissipating in storage. And this mystery liquid also is something you've probably consumed if you've eaten salt and vinegar potato chips, that is, making it non-toxic and safe to handle. And the best part is, this substance, also called sodium acetate, can be made with only 2 ingredients found at home. When we react sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, and acetic acid, vinegar, it produces the bubbly CO2 you might find in a science fair volcano, but it also makes sodium acetate. By adding 8 teaspoons, at roughly 5 grams each, and knowing that the molar mass is 84 grams per mole, we can anticipate just under half a mole of sodium bicarbonate being added into a reaction. This means by adding an excess of vinegar, roughly 2.5 cups, we can expect to make a 1-to-1 ratio of sodium acetate, or again just under half a mole. Working backwards, based on the fact that our sodium acetate's roughly 82 grams per mole, we can predict our total product to be just over 37 grams. To concentrate our sodium acetate, we'll want to boil off most of the excess water till we have roughly a half water, half sodium acetate solution. Normally, sodium acetate wants to be a solid at room temperature, so by heating this concentrated mixture, we can dissolve the crystals into a metastable state that we can recrystallize whenever we want. Here I boiled a little too much off, but that's no problem since I can just add a splash of water and bring it back up to a boil. I'll also save some of the dried up crystals along the edges of the pot, so we can use it to start the reaction, as these will act as nucleation sites to trigger the phase change. Taking a spoonful, it looks like we got the right concentration, since it's a liquid, but then resolidifies immediately once we add our crystals in. Once cooled, I'll go ahead and pour it into a bag so we can boil it later and reverse the reaction. Interestingly, while I was pouring it, it recrystallized as it splashed, creating this sort of interesting hot ice sculpture that immediately solidified as it was poured. I did end up adding a little bit more water to the solution to try and keep it more stable and make it harder to trigger the phase change until I want it. But again, our reaction's fully reversible, and all we have to do is drop our sodium acetate into some boiling water for a few minutes, and then I'll turn it back into a liquid, dissolving the crystals. In total, I weighed just over 93 grams, which means if we assume that the specific heat capacity of the substance is close to water, we can expect a total temperature rise of 25 degrees, or just under 10 kilojoules of energy being released. To watch the temperature rise over time, and thus see the energy dissipated over time, I'll use a microcontroller and a temperature probe to wirelessly log the data over the course of about an hour. I'll drop the probe in, and again to kickstart the phase change, all we have to do is take one of those crystals we saved and drop it in. Alternatively, as we've seen earlier, agitating the solution like shaking it can also trigger the reaction. During this phase change, latent heat is released, raising our temperature pretty close to our expected peak temperature of 45 degrees. Coming back an hour later, our temperature is decreased to around 33 degrees, and we can take a look at some of the data we collected. And knowing that 1 watt is 1 joule a second, we can also see the wattage of this thermal battery. During the initial recrystallization, we see a massive energy release, but then once it's finished solidifying, the only energy release seen is heat slowly leaving into the ambient surroundings. Based on our peak temperature, we see that our maximum energy was just under 9,000 joules, and a maximum watts was a brief spike of 290. Comparing to our prediction, we actually came pretty close, at only 9% difference from our theoretical maximum energy store, and about a 5% difference from our peak temperature that we predicted earlier. Although a battery that doesn't make electricity might seem kinda useless, it does have real practical purposes. This is the same working principle that makes instant heat packs and reusable hand warmers possible, since it's fully reversible and non-toxic. And with that said, I had fun with this experiment, and thank you for watching.